I really also think that women are victims of peer pressure like they've never been before. And one of the reasons we want to make sure our kids are coloring in the line or reading by the time they're 5.5 is because our friends' kids are doing it.
Welcome to the Focus on the Family broadcast, helping families thrive.
Meg, welcome back to Focus.
Oh, it's fun to be here.
It's always so fun.
It's always
to have
fun.
You.
Yeah.
You know, we did talk about a lot of the fatigue and the stress that are causing moms pain last time. And if you missed that discussion, get a download. And John, you can tell folks how to do that. But let me just cover the 10, because we didn't do that last time. And I think it's a great place to start. But for you, the mom who's listening, if you're in 1, 2, 3 of these spots, get a hold of us. We'll get you a copy of the book. If you can help us, great. If you can't, I still want to get this into your hands because it's a great tool. So let me hit it, and we'll post this at the website as well. Habit 1, understand your value as a mother. Man, this is going to be your weekend coming up, and it should be year-round, but I hope you know that you're valued. Number 2, maintain key friendships. We talked about that last time. Habit 3, value and practice faith. That can be hard with your schedule. And you're going, amen, Jim, that's right. But there are ways to do that. Habit 4, say no to competition. And we ended last time with Meg's great story of racing her doctor companion friend to the hospital to see who could get there first, unintentionally. Habit 5, create a healthier relationship with money. Habit 6, make time for solitude. We talk a lot about that with men, but not always so often with women. Habit 7, give and get love in healthy ways. Habit 8, find ways to live simply. Habit 9, let go of fear. Man, I think that is the curse of Eve. I'm telling you, I've said that many times. Fear and control are the curse of the daughters of Eve. And then number 10, hope is a decision, so make it. I love that. Meg, those are great, profound truths. What do you want moms to hear when you're expressing these issues of exhaustion and how they can reduce stress in their daily lives? Yeah, I've listed the 10. What do you want to say?
Well, as you read those 10, I don't want the mom out there listening to go, oh, now there's 10 more things I have to do. Because this isn't about doing. This is about pondering and thinking and saying, okay, I have a strong faith, but look, I don't have an hour and a half to pray. That's okay. You don't need it. As a young mother, Christ's heart is so loving toward the young mother.
And
so
accommodating.
And accommodating.
He knows.
When I was a young mother, I just learned to pray in the car. I learned to pray, 15 seconds at a time. I learned to sort of picture Jesus in the car with me. So things like that develop your faith. So it doesn't mean you have to sit down and do your devotional for half an hour and then pray for another half an hour. That just makes you go, ugh. Because sometimes Christian mothers feel like, okay, I'm not doing enough, and I'm not reading enough Bible scripture to my kids, and I'm not praying long enough. Just take that pressure off yourself. It's okay. I always say, your goal as a mom is to raise a healthy 25-year-old.
It's funny you aim at 25, because I know that between 18 and 25, there can be a lot of valleys.
Exactly.
So it's funny. That is a good thing.
And to realize at 18, you're far from done because your child's brain is just not there.
It's still developing.
It's still developing. And so I think it's important. But what I'm trying to say to mothers is reflect. Give yourself some grace.
Right.
And one of the things that I think is really important is for moms to put on their calendar on their phone twice a week, half hour on Tuesday, this day, is all mine. And I remember when I was a young mother, I would actually hire a high school kid to come over after school and to play with my kids. And I would go up in my bedroom for half an hour and I would sit there quietly. Sometimes I would pray, sometimes I would just sit there, but I needed that solitude. And every mom needs to be able to take a breath and go, okay, and to give yourself permission. It's okay if your kids miss soccer practice one night. It's fine. I mean, it really is fine because you know what? Chances are they're not going to go to college and play at a D1 school and be the star soccer player because all of these kids, 90% of these kids that are running around doing all this kind of stuff never end up pursuing it.
Yeah, you know what I like about that? Of course, you're a physician, so you know this, but they say if you can't work out on a treadmill for 30 minutes, if you do 10 minutes, it actually still has an advantage for your body. And of course, if you're sports minded, I can think, oh, no, it's not worth it if I can't get a full workout in.
Yeah.
But doctors will say, no, I mean, 10 minutes additive, if you can do 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, it's better than not doing anything.
Exactly.
And I think spiritually what I'm hearing you say is it's true too, not only for the body, but for the spirit. If you can commune with God for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, if that's all you've got, God will take that.
God will take that. And, God gives you so much more grace than you give yourself. He gets what's going on in your life and he loves you and he will eventually give you that time for, long periods of solitude. I don't have any kids home and my husband works crazy schedules, so I have a lot of time for solitude. Plus I'm an introvert, plus I love to write. So stick me alone in a room with my computer for 8 hours and I'm happy. But, we can do it. But the whole point of the book is to back off, not move in. Because moms know what they need to do. And I'm saying, let's cut that list down and back off a little bit and give yourself some grace. Solitude is really important. Faith is really important. And I think we live with a sense, too, with a hope issue. Christ is hope.
Yeah, amen.
He is hope. If we didn't have Christ, we would have no hope. People who are all about social justice, and I understand that. And I heard somebody once say, if we didn't have heaven, there would be no justice. Because for some people living such horrific lives, women who are living in such bondage and that kind of thing, if they didn't have heaven and they just died, there would be no justice. Yeah. So hope is who Christ is. And that means that we can live now with an 8-year-old who's out of control or feeling out of control and having terrible anxiety and depression, that we can have hope that life will be different next month and next year.
That is what
So
keeps you going.
Grab onto that and say, Lord, look, you said your hope. Show it to me. And I'm trying to encourage women to walk into that. And the only way you can walk into that is to pay attention and not be living on the crazy train.
I'm mindful, and we receive, phone calls and letters and emails from single moms. And I know there's single parent dads too, but we're focusing on mom because it's Mother's Day coming up.
Yeah.
So for that mom who has a huge load to carry, I mean, she's got to work. She's got to be that present, engaged mom. Exhaustion is kind of just normative. Mm-hmm. It's part of the deal, unfortunately. What do you say to her? I mean, how does she find margin? How can she do the things being kind of one arm tied behind her back?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say to single moms is don't try to be two people. And a lot of single moms try to make up for their kids what their dad is not giving them. And you can't. And they try to overcompensate. You can't. But here's what you can be. You can be an extraordinary mom who can raise an extraordinary kid. And I've seen it over and over and over. Here's the other thing. Kids get what's going on in your life, and they're okay with it. There's a huge difference between a child who stays home alone a lot because mom is choosing to go to work because she needs the pool in the backyard and the extra car and all this kind of stuff, who's opting to spend time away from kids. Kids who grow up with single moms know their mom wants to be with them but can't.
Right.
And that mom is going out and working for them. And she's exhausting herself for them. So I believe that kids give single moms a lot more grace than moms are willing to accept. That's what kids of single moms tell me.
Yeah, I think it's true. I was the child of that single mom.
They say, my mom is working
Yeah.
so hard. What can I do to help her? And so moms need to give themselves the grace and to realize that just because they're not spending enough time with their kids that they would want to be, it doesn't mean your kids are not going to turn out okay. Really and truly. And give your kids the best of what you have, which is just spend time with them. That's what they want. Don't feel you need to compensate by buying them better clothes or getting a bit bigger house or making sure they get help with buying a car when they're 17 or 18. Or, it's okay. Kids don't need those things anyway. What your kids want is your presence. So when you're able to be with them, sit down with them. Sit with them while they're doing their homework. Sit with them and just kind of read the newspaper and get off your phone. I want to tell every parent out there, if you could hear what kids say about your phones, and I'm just talking about single moms, it makes kids feel so isolated and lonely. But single moms need to really dial down on their expectations of themselves. And I can say that knowing that your kids can be great because I've heard your kids talk about you.
One of my favorite memories of my mom, being a single mom, trying to provide, she was a waitress, and, I'd get home from school and she'd be heading off to work because she would work like 3 to midnight. And I remember hanging on her car door. This is all politically incorrect. I'd hang on the car door, and she would be backing up down the driveway, and I would be talking to her, and I'd be begging her to bring me home a chocolate shake or something because she always brought this great food home, from the restaurant. And I just remember that. I was not worried that she was leaving or anything. I was just, in my manipulation mode to beg her for that chocolate shake. Yeah. But it was fun memories of her running off to work and me saying, bye, Mom, I love you, I love you.
Exactly.
And I'm sure she felt more guilt about it. I didn't. I went right back to playing.
Exactly. Particularly sons. One things I've learned about sons who grew up with single moms, it's testimony to how much they love their moms. And I work with a number of the NFL guys, Once they get grown up and they're established in their careers, what do they want to do?
Take care of their mom.
Take care of their mom.
That's exactly right.
Now, if she were a bad mom, would they want to take care of her? No, of course not. But that's how endeared moms are to their sons.
Here is the $1 million question. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? This is the big one, John.
Okay.
Meg, how can a mom hold their children loosely and trust God with their lives? Ooh. I mean, is that not the question? Yeah. I see it all the time in moms. They are paranoid, petrified, exacerbated, tired, working themselves to death, trying to build character into their kids and all those things that they need, and they're just not joyful.
Right. Well, I think that comes with age. But remember, God says perfect love drives out fear. God does not give us fear. So, and I really strongly believe we are not to live in fear, but in strength. And that means, and this is the toughest thing a mother can do, and I've seen mothers, as the time has gone on the past 10 years, sort of claw at their kids. They cannot let go. That's why I have a lot of 20-something young men living at home.
Right.
Because mom so much needs them, because it's and it needs them to be there, but has projected they need her too.
So that's an emotional need.
It's an emotional thing. It's because they can't let go, because the world is horrible, and that child needs them to make sure they're this and this and this. It's the worst thing we can do for a son. Developmentally, it stunts them. One of the things that's really important, and I write this in my mother-son book, is when they hit those teen years, you've got to purposely let go and push him away, because boys will cling to their mothers. If men feel they cling to their mothers, they feel creepy.
Right.
They're not a man.
Right.
So you need to let them go and come back. But why do we do it with our children? Because we feel we have more power than we do. Where does that power come from? We've given it to ourselves. The list. We are to fulfill the list. We are to be our child's everything. If you're a single mom, you're to be dad and you're to be mom. We are to make sure our kids eat organic food. We're to make sure we complete the list to make sure our kids are okay. So we feed that sense of power that we have, and the truth is we don't have the power. And as Christian moms, we need to let go of our kids. It's so painful. One of our daughters, after she graduated college, felt called to do some mission work. And she said she felt called to do mission work in South America. Great, I could deal with that. Because she'd been to South America with her dad and da-da-da. Well, over time, over a month or two, she came and she said to her dad and I that God opened a door in Indonesia, and she felt she was called to go there. You can't get farther away from home than Indonesia. And she came to us, and my husband said, "You really prayed about it a long time." "Yeah, I did." And I said, "Well, listen to me. God needs to talk to the mom first. I'm not okay with this." Because I was terrified of letting her go halfway across the world to a country that really wasn't so happy with Americans.
What did she say when you said that?
She said, "You know, Mom, I'm a grown up. I've prayed about it, and this is what I think I need to do."
Wow. That was a moment.
It was gut-wrenching for me because she could have died. She learned very quickly that where she was living, they didn't like Americans very well. So she learned to fake an Australian accent.
Oh, my.
She had long blonde hair. She stood out like a sore thumb. I found out after she came home that 2 miles down from where she was working in this school, there was a jihad training camp for boys,
Oh, my goodness.
Muslim boys. And she was walking past it every day. And when she came home, so it was a huge test for me of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying, gut-wrenching for me, because I'm like any mom, controlling. They need me to square them away, to teach them this, to love Christ this way, not that way.
I love this confession.
Okay, I led the pack of controlling moms, and I know medicine. And I know how to prevent meningitis and leukemia and cystic fibrosis. I've given my kids so many illnesses you can't imagine. My pediatrician said, if you don't stop running tests on your kids, I'm booting you out of my office. But when she came home from her 1.5 years there, I said to her, tell me one thing, the one most important thing you've learned about being there. And I will never forget, she looked at me and she said, Mom, I know who God is. I know how to trust that God can take care of me in any situation. And I burst into tears. That was a lesson I never could have taught her.
Yeah. And you had to learn to trust.
She had to, she knows I can trust God in all things. She's a 22-year-old kid.
And it was a lesson for you, wasn't it?
Oh, I still have a hard time letting go.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an Israelite, I know that God has been faithful. I know it, but can I trust him in the future? To every mother I say, yes, because he loves your child more than you love him.
Meg Meeker is our guest on Focus on the Family, and she's written a great book, The 10 Habits of Happy Mothers. We have that, and a CD or download of this conversation as well, both days of the discussion with her. Stop by our website, get the CD or download and the book, and that's all at focusonthefamily.com/broadcast, or call 800, the letter A in the word family.
And Meg, you encourage moms to make a couple of lists of goals in their lives. How do you suggest they go about making that list? That could be a broad list.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Well, make sure you put yourself on that list.
And what does that look like? What are those things you're putting
Well,
down?
what that looks like is, okay, what do my kids really need? What are the 3 things they really need?
If you filled that in, what would you have said with you were a mother of 4 and a pediatrician?
Yep.
You had 4 kids screaming, help me, help me. What was your list?
My kids need more of my time.
Time.
It doesn't have to be great time. It can be time arguing. It can be time disagreeing. It can be, but they need my face. They need me there. That's what kids need. And they say
presence.
Presence. You need to be present. Parents always say, well, my kids care if I'm arguing or know that, and they need us to get divorced because they don't like this fake. I said, you know what? Your kids don't care. Your kids want you under the roof because they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. So kids want your presence. And I remind myself of that when I'm with my adult kids and my grandkids. So you have to be intentional about giving your kids your presence. You have to be intentional about expressing love to your kids. You can't believe how many kids grow up, graduate high school, and still don't know if their parents love them. And it astonishes me because usually in a small town, I know their parents.
Yeah.
I know their parents are crazy about it, but the kids don't feel loved. Why? Because the parents are always disengaged doing whatever important thing they need to do.
Yeah, and I wanted to hit that because, some parents listening right now might feel like, whoops, I may have missed that. Describe it. When you're talking to these children, as a pediatrician, you're talking to the parents and the kids are describing this, the parents are talking to you about it. What does that look like? Because you can be oblivious as an adult parent and not know that your kids are graduating without knowing that you love them. Yeah. So pretend I'm your husband. Yeah. Spell it out for me. Be blunt.
Yeah. There are 2 things that every troubled teen graduating from high school says to me. No one cared to listen. No one paid any attention. So what kids are saying is, Dad and Mom, you need to hear what I have to say, and you need to want to be with me. And if you can do those things, and that means really being present, and I mean turn the cell phone off, turn the television off, turn your laptop off, don't get distracted. Because spending 10 minutes with your kid, husband, makes your kids feel, you see me, you want to be with me, you want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
What does that do to a kid? 10 minutes a day. It makes them feel so valuable. You know, we're all into self-esteem these days. We feel like the way to boost your kids' self-esteem is set them up for tutors so they get straight A's. Make sure they have a skating coach, a hockey coach, a football coach, whatever. Put them out somewhere and get them really good at stuff. No. What all the research says that what makes kids feel really good and loved is not being ignored, being paid attention to, and heard and listened to. And any parent can do that. Now, you may not like what your kids have to say. Doesn't matter. Listen anyway.
Yeah,
Buy
right.
a couple rolls of duct tape.
And then sit on your mouth. Right, exactly.
Put them over your mouth. So that's how you express love to your kids. And then touch them and look them in the eye and tell them you love them.
You know, every family is going to find that rhythm. I think for us, Jean has done a wonderful job with dinner. Mm-hmm. I mean, and we do spend maybe an hour sitting around the table, arguing, laughing, philosophizing, theologicalizing.
Yeah.
How about that word?
Yeah.
You know, just sitting talking about a whole host of things. Did you hear what was in the news today? Yeah. And we laugh and we say, wow, that we talk about suicide, you know, because here in Colorado Springs, I think just about everybody knows a family that has gone through that. Mm-hmm. And so those are heavy topics, but I'm hopeful that we have found that rhythm to do that at dinner time and to actually communicate and connect and spend time together around the table long after we finished our last bite.
Yeah. And that is so important to kids. Do you know how many kids have said to me, I just wish we would sit down together once in a while, but I eat on my own and mom eats at, 10 o'clock because she's busy and dad eats at whatever. They just sort of eat on the go. But I think your point of spending time together in a circle or, however, is so critical because it allows the kids to see, to know. My parents see me, and I would really encourage parents to do one exercise that really helps a teenager. Ask their opinion about things.
Yeah. Get their input.
Teenagers feel shut down. And every parent says, my teenager never wants to talk to me. And I say, yes, they do. Watch them at school. Well, they don't want to touch me. Yes, they do. They're hanging on each other. Why are girls sitting in the backseat of a car with some pimply-faced 17-year-old kid? Because
Careful.
Yeah, I know. But they need that intimate connection with mom and dad, and that can happen over dinner table. So ask their opinion. Ask what they think. If you're worried about your child being depressed, the best way to find out what's going on with your kid in their life is ask what's going in their friends' lives.
Oh, I like that a lot.
I heard that the new kid in your class is kind of struggling with friends. How's she doing? And if you hear what's going on in their friends' lives, you can bet that's going on in their life too. Mm. So the best way to find that out is sort of, and not with, gee whiz, that's kind of bad. Or like, how can you help her? Or have you ever felt that way? She's been kind of made fun of. Have you ever experienced that? Or so-and-so feels that. Have you ever felt that? So not coming at them with, I need to figure out what's going on with you so I can correct it. But coming in with the attitude is, I'm a safe person to talk to. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to tell you you're crazy. I'm not going to tell you I told you so. I'm not going to tell you I knew you were
Those are big promises you're making.
Yeah. But live with the attitude that you're open to hear whatever your kid has to say, and your kid will tell you anything.
No, that's good.
Yeah. There's a key time to get your kids to talk to. So one more thing, bedtime.
Yeah, I know.
Bedtime.
And I'm a morning person.
And so when they're tucked into bed, I don't care if they're 18 years old, go in the room, sit in a chair at their desk and just say, how was your day? I don't want to talk about it. Okay, go in 2 days later. How was your day? Eventually your child will open up.
Meg, probably my observation, fear is the grip. And what can a mom do who's throttled by fear? I mean, she's bound up by it. She can't operate as a healthy mom because she's so fearful.
Yep.
It can be external things, it can be emotional things, but she's just fearful of the kids being outside, fearful of an overnight, fearful of this family, fearful of whatever. How can she, and what did you do as a mom of four to kind of beat that and not be so fearful?
Yeah. Well, remember I told you women have inner dialogue. I'm sure men do too, but they have less of it.
We have a lot less of it, trust me.
Yeah. And so the inner dialogue that says, I can't let my child because his success is on my shoulders.
Huh.
So to say to yourself, your child's success is not on your shoulders. If your child is going to succeed in high school or go to college, yeah, you can tweak him a little here and tweak him a little here, but if he's going to get there, he's going to get there because God's in charge, not you. You're not God to your kids. So first of all, their success, it doesn't depend on you. Their behavior doesn't always depend on you. So if you've got an out-of-control 16-year-old or 8-year-old, whatever, it has more to do with them and less to do with you.
That's hard to believe.
It is, but you need to step back and pretend you're your neighbor. And your kid is your neighbor's kid. How would your neighbor come in and look at your kid? Wow, they're really having a hard day. Or wow, if your 15-year-old is having a fit or a temper tantrum about something, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yes.
We think everything's about us, that we're to blame for our kids' bad behavior. We're to blame if our kids fail, or we're to blame if our kid is a terrible football player. No, you're not. That's on them. They're their own people.
Right.
Everything isn't your fault, and their successes aren't your fault.
Yes.
So, it's like, Christ tells us that we want to diminish and he wants to grow. So moms need to diminish and realize I'm just a part of his life to steer him this way and steer him that way. But God is going to get him wherever he wants him to be.
But that is a step of faith. And it's a
And it
fearful
has to be
step.
intentional.
Yep.
It has to be deliberate, and it has to start in your head.
Yep.
You need to say to yourself, my child's successes and failures are not all on my shoulders.
Well, and this is a great place to end today because, we've talked about the practical applications, but really what I want you to do at the end here, Meg, is to offer encouragement and hope in Christ to those moms who are listening right now, hundreds of thousands, who are discouraged and weary today because they're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They're not looking at the long view of the 25-year-old. We're looking at the behavior of a 13-year-old. And it's really disruptive and it is horrible and I don't know what to do. And right?
Yes.
Am I describing
so
that
here's
well?
the thing. If you've got an out-of-control 12-year-old, here's the good news, bad news. You have 13 years to go. And that's good news, bad news. In other words, over that 13-year period, guess what? God will change your son or daughter no matter what you do, no matter what you do. And also to realize, you may be saying, I'm a terrible mom. Let me tell you something. If you're listening to the show right now, that tells me you care.
Right.
And that you're an invested mom and you want to be better. And I am telling you, today, you're good enough in your child's eyes. And B, you're wired, because God wired you with everything you need to be a better mom. It doesn't look like what you think it looks like. Get rid of the list. Ask God what that looks like. More time with your kids, more relaxation, and be kinder to yourself. Even if you just don't do that handful of things, you are well on your way.
Dr. Meg, this has been so good. It has flown by 2 days. I think people have gotten a good idea, especially moms, about what it will take to have 10 Habits of Happy Mothers, the title of your book. And I am convinced that if you can contact us, we will put this resource into your hand. It will make a difference, and I'm happy to do that. If you can't afford it, we have, I think, enough support that we will be able to afford to do that and to send it to you. If you can help us, become a partner, a monthly partner to Focus on the Family so that we can together, touch lives in the name of Christ. So for that gift, we will say thank you by sending you a copy of Meg's book. If you can't afford it, we'll send you a copy either way. Meg, thanks again for being with us.
This was so much fun, Jim. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, I'm John Fuller, and thanks for watching. Get more info about Focus over here and more from our guests over there, and be sure to subscribe to our channel as well.